it would be okay, because I've had people that have watched shorts like yourself and have come to me and said, this made me feel something and it reminded me of this, and thank you for making it. Like, that is enough. So of course I want to make a feature. Of course I want to work in TV. Of course I want to be rich and successful. Are you kidding me? Why the hell else would I be slogging away in the world? Of course I need to live,
Right.
but I don't know. I don't want to. I don't. If I was at the same level
Oh,
as like a Paul Thomas Anderson, you better believe I'm still making short films, and I'm probably paying for them
right.
too, because they're just, it's a different form, and it's a fun, freer form than a feature I think could ever be.
Good day, filmmaker Aisha Amin of the film Contours. Aisha, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. It's freezing my ass off here in
Yeah.
New York. Getting through it. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm well. I'm thrilled to talk with you. And I was thinking I could get myself in trouble talking about how much I love your film Contours, which is screening at Slamdance here in a couple weeks. But the good news is I think everything is embargoed. So all the other filmmakers that I talk to, they won't have to hear me talk about how much I love the film. And I just first person I reached out to were when I started watching shorts. Is that good? The one thing that I really love, there's so many things, but the one thing I really love about it is how quickly you get to the twist. And I was thinking about it, it's like you can't really mess around in a short film, right? Like you can't just spend 5 minutes before you get to a twist because that's half your runtime.
It's true. It's true. Shorts are a tricky form. You can have a really effective 3-minute short. You can have a really beautiful 20-minute short. I
Right.
think 40 minutes is pushing it, in my opinion, but to each his own. But you're right. If you're going to have, if it's the kind of short where you want to have a twist or you want to subvert some kind of genre that you're working with, it's got to be at, it's got to be pretty, it's got to be at a time where the audience is least expecting it. And I think that's what we tried doing with Contours, and the kind of film you watch in the first half is entirely different than the film you're watching in the second half. And I think
Yep.
that's my favorite aspect of the film is you really have two different emotions, wildly different emotions while you're watching it.
So I can't wait to talk about it, and I can't wait to talk about your work in the medium. Because I really think like you have an advanced level appreciation of short films, and I think they've been all been recognized. I think at prominent festivals. So I think you've really touched upon it. But how do you come up with that? Like, how did you get started in filmmaking? Was it something that early on you were like, man, I know watching early movies you knew, or was it something that developed later on?
Yeah, I think every filmmaker, every film lover has their own kind of story to how they came to it.
Exactly.
But and I think that's what makes filmmaking so incredibly unique and fun, is that every filmmaker has a backstory that is different, and they bring something different to the stories they want to tell. I didn't start out wanting to be a filmmaker. I was a film lover. I was like a fantasy nerd my entire life, mostly because Lord of the Rings was like shoved down my throat by my brothers. I was obsessed with fantasy movies. It was my whole life, and I was a science nerd as well. I went to school to study neuroscience, college. I came out with a
Wow.
science degree. I also acted in college, which was like something that I didn't take seriously, but something I really deeply enjoyed, theater. It was a weird combination of two things together, but I think that's what makes for someone who would be interested in cinema. My last year of school, actually, I had finished all my credits and I was messing around deciding, should I graduate early and enter the workforce, just be a cog in the machine? Or
Right.
should I just mess around and take a bunch of random classes in different schools and see what else is out there? So I ended up, and this was like a major thing, was I ended up taking a Super 8 film class, and got
Ooh.
to make whatever film you wanted, but you had to operate the camera and develop and hand splice the film yourself. And I thought, oh my God, first of all, this is insane that I have to literally sit in my dorm room with Super 8 millimeter film and cut it with this old ratty machine they had laying in a closet for years. And I got to film something and make it, and I made a short doc on a friend
Ooh.
of
On
mine
Super 8?
on Super 8, on black and white Super 8. And it was
Wow.
developed beautifully, and it was like incredible. It was grainy, it was gorgeous. The medium was beautiful. I made it with my hands, so I got to say film is something that you do with your hands, which now not so much, but it changed everything for me, and I was like, this is it now. There's no looking back. Now that I've done this once, I just want to keep doing it. So it started with shorts. I'm still obsessed with shorts, and I want to make them for the rest of my life. I think they're tough to write, but it flexes your directing muscle. It gets you on set. It gets you collaborating with people. It's fun. The energy is high and great. And it's 2, 3 days of your life where you're dedicating everything to this project. And then it's over and you get depressed. But shorts are amazing. And I really wish more people made them.
Wow, that there's so much in that answer
That
that
was a
I
lot.
simply love. Like the first part, just talking about like how you got into filmmaking, which is why like that's always my first question on the podcast. And I've reflected on that and I think, do people want it maybe to change it up or and then I came to the same conclusion you did, is that like every person's story is different. One person who's said that they watched a bunch of movies is that one person's story, but it's not transferable to anybody else. And I think it's like that root how people find it is so unique to every person. So I think you described it, the rationale behind the podcast, way better
Oh,
than I
well,
ever have.
no, of course, it's my pleasure, and it's a real truth. There are people that enter that are children who know, okay, I want to be a director. I don't know if you saw
Right.
the Fablemans. Spielberg had this whole
Yep.
idea
Yep.
that movies was his entire life, and he was going to make movies, and no one was going to stop him. And that is certainly one incredible way of becoming a director. But the reality is that's not common at all, and it's really daunting. And nobody really people enjoy movies, but they don't typically think about the mechanics behind how they're made unless you have that kind of calling and that kind of brain, and it pushes you towards that, and it's fate, I think.
Yeah. And the other part about it that Isha, I was wondering if you are you familiar with the Straight Eight competition? So it's this competition where they just you send in a Super 8 cartridge, no editing. It's 2 to 3 minutes, and you
Wow.
send it in, and you don't even know what you have anything on there, and then
Yeah.
they choose like the top whatever from that competition, and it's just wild. Like
No
I
editing
talked
is
with the film,
crazy. You have to
no editing, yeah.
meticulously plan then. Yeah, that's how fun is that though? I wanna do that.
Yeah, and they show them in London, and they to like a packed house. It's a really cool competition, and I think there is a thriving a market for film. Have you thought like about like your relationship with film versus digital?
Yeah, I think now it's complicated because
Right.
shorts, there's not that much money in shorts. So
Not that.
I've
I mean, there's
recently
hardly. Yeah.
yeah, that's like that's the elephant in the room. I think I just shot a short on 16 millimeter.
Okay.
And when the prints came back, it was just the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. I just was not expecting the colors and the richness and the print to be so good. It was developed at Kodak in New York. Shooting it was a nightmare. I will say it was really hard. It was really hard
Right.
because it forces you to plan your shots in a way where time is money. My DP Oliver and I, we had a joke when we were on set where we would be filming something, and if there was anything that happened, like a cloud change or someone's hand in the frame or an actor messed up
Wow.
a line, he would turn to me jokingly. He would say, "Oh, that's $250." You know what I mean? Because every minute is money. And I was like, "Yeah," but it makes you think. Okay, the planning is very intense, and you have to be so intentional as a director with film. But it makes for a beautiful print, and it makes for a better director and a more kind of attention oriented team, and everyone wants the thing to succeed, everyone wants it to look good. So there's this attention on set where it's you don't really get that as much with digital. So of course I would do it if my funder, whoever future funder of mine would allow it. Of course I would do it. It's, I think, superior.
Wow. Like I said, you, I would say, probably more than most filmmakers have become an expert on filming short films. I know you ran a Kickstarter for one. You have one, like we talked about, Contours showing at Slamdance. I think you probably understand like all the funding mechanisms for short films. You understand where what you can get from them in terms of like appeal from like distributors and producers and all that. So can you talk about your relationship with short films? You said earlier that you're going to try to stick with it. What does that look like in terms of the next few years for you, in terms of a career? making money from doing that, I think is a big challenge. What are your thoughts on like the medium and then how filmmakers can benefit from sticking with it?
Yeah, this is the eternal question
Right.
for everyone kind of working. Yeah, and it's true. I think initially it was my only way into filmmaking was the short form, and my only way in through that was documentary because it was free. It was a
Right.
story that I could shoot with maybe 2 crew members, and I could go out there and craft it in the edit, and it was accessible to me. So I entered through docs thinking I would do docs, and then I always wanted to write, I always wanted to do narrative, so I decided to go to film school. I just graduated from Columbia with my MFA and on a scholarship because it's hard out
Yeah.
here.
So
Truly, like it is, it's tough because I think some filmmakers think, okay, I'm going to make a short so that I can make a feature, or
right.
I'm going to make a short so that I
100%.
can get a manager. I'm going to make a short so that I can get my foot through the door in the industry and people can recognize me as a filmmaker. Everyone has a different objective with it, but for me, it was I'm going to make shorts because it's the only thing that will allow me to be on set on my own terms and because I want to make cool stuff with my friends and I want to do it over and over again. So, however I can secure the money to do that, I will do it. It's not so that I can make a feature. It's not so that I can get my name out there, although that is what
Right.
happened because the shorts ended up being really great and people watched them, and that is like the only really the best thing that can happen for you is that people watch your shorts and they have a response to it and they reach out to you and they tell you how it made them feel. Like that is really something that will carry a filmmaker through their career. And if I stop tomorrow, I think it would be okay because I've had people that have watched shorts like yourself and have come to me and said, "This made me feel something and it reminded me of this and thank you for making it." Like that is enough. So, of course I want to make a feature. Of course I want to work in TV. Of course I want to be rich and successful. Are you kidding me? Why the hell else would I be slogging away in the world? Of course I need to live,
Right.
but I don't know. I don't want to. I don't. If I was at the same level
Oh,
as like a Paul Thomas Anderson, you better believe I'm still making short films, and I'm probably paying for them
right.
too, because they're just it's a different form, and it's a fun, freer form than a feature I think could ever be. That's opinionated here, but I had to throw
No,
that out there.
no. Aren't you surprised that there aren't more filmmakers who have made it to some degree and are not just out there funding like films, like just getting
Yeah,
out there short films at Slamdance or wherever it is? It feels
yeah.
like that's an untapped market for like people who can executive produce these kind of films,
I
right?
know it's so true. I think it's quite sad though because there has to be a culture of giving back in some way, but
Right.
it feels like this industry doesn't necessarily do that. Of course, it depends. I know the Duplass brothers will fund first features sometimes, and there are grants out there that help you out. And with Contours, we had our incredible lead actress Lauren Ridloff. I asked her if she could be an EP just because I knew this is a professional actress with so many great credits. She's so talented, and this is a deaf film. And she's one of the only deaf actresses working at her level. So I thought this makes sense for you to EP. But that was me reaching out to her and
Right.
ask. It's not like
Right.
people are coming to us. They never will. The thing is, I don't remember who said this, but the cavalry isn't coming, and you just have to be the cavalry. You have to make
Yeah.
the thing, even though no one is going to reach down and say, "Here's $30,000." That's the state
Right.
of it. It is sad. It is sad. It's true.
What a phenomenal answer. The other way I think you could have gotten in is podcasting, Isha, because you're so like thoughtful
I
in your
love
answer.
podcasts.
Obviously, because you're just so thoughtful in your answers here.
But you're way
It's
better
just
at because you have that very nice, impressionable voice that's very steady and.
I hate my voice. It's so hard to listen to it. But thank you for saying that. So Contours, the
Mhm.
film is phenomenal. It's about a deaf
Thank you.
couple, but you have to say, I have to say, I forget that as it goes along. So can you talk a little bit about,
Mhm.
as much as you can, the story of Contours, how it came to be, some of the decisions you made on it? It's just such a brilliant film, and I think everyone at Slamdance will be so thrilled to see it. I think the audience reaction is going to be phenomenal.
Oh my gosh, I hope so. So the origin of Contours, it's a grant funded film. So
Okay.
I had applied to a grant called the Find Your People program, which was brand new.
Ooh.
It was the first of its kind, and it was created by Color Creative, which is owned by Issa Rae. So she is a celebrity that has decided, okay, I'm going to help emerging filmmakers and I'm going to
That's
fund these
awesome.
shorts. I applied as a director. Basically, you apply within your field. Production designers applied, writers applied, cinematographers applied. I, as a director, applied. This was the first grant that I had ever. It was the first of its kind in that I always direct what I write. So this was the first instance where I was directing something that I hadn't written. But I developed the story with the team that I was paired with. So they paired me with department heads. And I was like,
Ooh,
okay, now I have to like be a director with people that I've never met before. This is going to be so hard. And it was hard. And it was a lot of different personalities and understanding people's working styles. But they gave
right.
us a big chunk of money and they said, as long as you can pitch this to us and that we can approve the pitch, you can go off with this team and you can make a short. And I was like, if I get to make a movie, I'm in. I'm already in. So we developed, me and Brian, the writer, we developed the idea together. I was around that time I had just gotten engaged, so I was thinking about relationships and marriage is daunting and oh my god, what if you just get bored of the person? What happens when they annoy you and you live together and all this stuff was floating out of my brain and I was regurgitating it all to Brian and he was thinking about it and we were thinking about it and we came up with this idea of it's a couple, it's a married couple and they're having marriage issues
Yeah,
and it's time to ignite the flame because too much time has gone by and they've forgotten each other. They've just forgotten each other. They've forgotten how to make the other person feel special. Brian wrote the story and we made edits and uh, one of the things that the program really wanted to stress was it was all the people in the program were people of color. I'm
that's
Muslim
awesome.
American, I'm South Asian. There were people on my team who were Black, Asian Americans. It was really incredible, diverse artists in this program. And they wanted to tell diverse stories. And I'm thinking there is one way to tell a story where we're casting actors of a specific race or ethnicity for a specific reason. But how often are we seeing diversity within accessibility? How often are we seeing deaf or hard of hearing characters? Brian had written a piece previously that featured a deaf actor and he told me that and I thought, why can't the main characters be deaf?
Right,
And the story does not have to be about how hard it is to be deaf. It does not have to be about the struggle that having a disability, you keep navigating the world with it. It's so hard. It doesn't, because in a sense, when you tell stories like that and you're not a filmmaker that is deaf herself, in a way, you're looking down on
right.
that crowd and it feels a little bit egotistical. So in my head, I thought, okay, this is a story that is about a married couple having marriage issues and they just happen to be deaf. It's not a story about a deaf couple with marriage issues because our brain immediately thinks, oh, they're having issues because they're both deaf. No, that's not at all what it
Right.
is. There are deaf people in the world who have incredibly rich and interesting lives and really normal, have normal issues in their life just like everyone else does. And this couple happens to be one of them. So we developed the story together. We pitched it. We came up with a whole sort of deck and a look and a tone and a feel. And we brought it together and it resonated with people because our actors were excited by it. And these are deaf actors that have been in all kinds of film and TV and have really experienced all kinds of discrimination in all different ways and frustrations that they're not being cast. We made it for them, really.
Wow, what an answer. So there's so much in there. So when you took on a project that you hadn't written, what was that challenge like? If there's some director out there who says, I always direct what I write, it's so much more personal to me. Can you give any advice of what that experience was like and how others should take on that challenge?
It's tough. It's tough. I think if you're a writer director, your story, your film is like your baby because it's
Right.
something that is normally it's personal or parts of your personal life has come out onto the page and it'll come out onto the screen and you have a certain way of thinking about what it's going to look like and how it's going to feel. And that is not the case if you're not writing the story. Even if it's the story you came up with, it's not the case. You have to be really collaborative and
Right.
you have to put your ego aside and you have to come to terms with the fact that your ideas, your way of thinking isn't the only right way. And
Right.
You got to respect your writer. And the thing is, at some point, the script does get handed over to the director. And that's there for a reason. I think that's the case with features as well and television as well, is when the script is finalized and it's in the right place, it does get handed over to the director. And you do have flexibility to not change the writing, fit things into your look in the way that you want to create the film, which for me was great because then the writing was strong. It was so
Right.
strong. Inevitably, it might change on set. You have to be flexible and you have to be collaborative, I think.
So it sounds you probably wouldn't take on a project if the writing was shitty. Like you wouldn't if you wouldn't write like you wouldn't go on and direct something if you read it and was like, "Oh man, this
I
is
mean,
not something I would go
the
for."
writing is
Right.
everything. It's, unless you go on set and you just fucking throw the script away and you let the actors, hopefully
Right.
who are skilled, riff and make something real, but the writing is everything. And if the writing is not strong, absolutely it will come out in the film. It will, for sure.
The other really interesting part about Contours, Isha, is that like you said, it was funded through a diverse program for diversity. It came around to doing it on deaf regarding deafness couple,
Mhm.
but that's not the highlight of it. And like I said, like 5 minutes in, you are able to just see the sign. Like you don't feel that you don't associate the characters with being deaf. It's just like it's almost
Yeah.
like subtitles. It's just like it's just part of the story. It's part of who they are.
Mhm.
But the challenge in this is that I feel like in some ways, and you're seeing it less now, but there used to be like these set asides for like the diverse films. I think Slamdance
Yes.
maybe calls it something else, but it used to
Mhm.
be more prevalent where it's like we these are the diverse films. And as we all know, like diversity is under attack now from the idea of we want it all to be just merit based and no diversity. So how do you feel about the future of this? Do you feel like there should be like things like the how this Contours got funded and people do things that way, or do you think it's just like filmmakers like yourself just need if you want to tell say a Muslim American story, you just
Mhm.
fucking tell the story you want to tell and
Yeah.
fuck it if somebody doesn't like it.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's really hard being an artist right now, I think. It's always been hard. It's always been hard. Here's the thing, even with the grants and the diversity
Right.
programs and the just the it's still there's still it still feels like there's a massive wall in front of you
Yeah.
and you'll apply to these things and you'll get rejected and other people will get accepted and it's always competitive and it always will be competitive. But the only reason I was able to make shorts and the only reason I can call myself a filmmaker is because of programs like that. Because
Right.
they want to fund your work and it's
Right.
monetary based. And filmmaking can't be done without money. And it's true. If I want to tell a story about growing up in New York as a Muslim American in the 90s and the early aughts, I could probably go out and do it self-funded, but
Right.
it probably won't be as good because a
Yeah.
lot of people won't work for I don't wanna hire people for such little money or for free. It'll be hard to get my idea on to the screen because I don't have the networking, the mentors who can guide me, the career advice, the cinematographer I wanna work with. You have less at your disposal. So the programs are essential, and I hope they don't go away. I hope,
Yeah.
with what happens is they just change their name, but they still continue funding people.
Right.
It's always been hard, but they make it a hell of a lot easier for people of color who even first-time filmmakers who can just get support from an organization like that. I hope it doesn't go away. Yes, you can make the films no matter what. Yes, good work will rise to the top, but it'll only be good if you have the resources to make it good.
Right, and just with that answer, it makes me think like it all comes down to partially there's the perception of the person because I think in a lot of these discussions, it's like this basic view, right? You're imagining like these aggrieved white dudes who are like thinking, if only it wasn't for the diversity, I would have my film made, and they're imagining like they're getting like everything done, everything they propose is getting funded by these diverse grants, and it's not like that at all. Like
It's not. You could get a great grant and you could still make a shit film. That's the truth of it. You know what I
right,
mean? It
right,
really if the work is good, it will rise to the top no matter what.
yeah,
Write a good screenplay. It should be a challenge for them.
right.
Write a good enough screenplay that wants to get produced by a studio. Like, if you're not working with the grant programs, then do that instead. You can always sit at your computer and write something strong, can't you? There's really nothing stopping folks, and I think them complaining about grants like that, they may
Right.
not even benefit from a grant like that anyway.
Yeah, no, exactly. That you can have an aggrieved mindset no matter who you are, and I think it'll set you
Mhm.
back a million times. So why Slam Dance? Is there any special affinity to that festival?
Oh my god, Slamdance is the best festival
I agree.
right now is in the indie film world, I think, at least, because first of all, the origin of it is fantastic. Created as a sort of anti Sundance, anti establishment mindset. It happened in Park City for years, the week after Sundance, and folks were going back and forth from seeing films at Sundance that are fantastic, but may already have distribution, to films at Slamdance that are weird and subversive
Yeah,
and just something you would probably never see anywhere else. So the programming is elite, I think. If you want to tell a weird story, it'll have an audience at Slamdance. I love the festival. They're so accessibility friendly. Every single film is closed captioned. So deaf and hard of hearing folks can watch every film in every block. That was something I was concerned about when we had gotten in. I thought, okay, great, this is our big premiere, but it's not going to mean anything if deaf people in the audience can't participate and see the captions. So I told
right.
them again and again, please, we have members of our cast and crew coming. It's important that the entire shorts block is accessibility friendly and that we have an ASL interpreter when we do the Q&A session. Otherwise, what's the point in showing it? And they said, of course, we do that for every single film. And that was the
Okay.
first time
Yeah, that's awesome.
I had ever heard. I was like, it can't be this easy with other festivals. So they really,
No.
and they care
Yeah.
about the filmmakers, and they're just nice people, and they like weird stuff, and it's definitely my crowd. So I'm excited about it.
And how will you answer when you are talking with people at the festival and they be like, "Oh, are you working on your first feature?" What will that? Because 100% that's going to happen, Isha. People are going to be like, "Oh yeah, are you working on a feature?" What is your answer to that question going to be?
Oh man, yes, a bunch. Probably 3 in my back pocket right now. Can you help me
Paying
with
for
some
it,
answers?
right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, is like multiple pots are always on the burners. You always have to have stuff in your back pocket. And even if I have a half written feature, I will say yes. And I will pitch the hell out of it probably because I'm desperate to make stuff.
Yeah,
So the Contours is a short, and I think it works beautifully in as a short. I think there is
right.
a feature version of it. I haven't written it, and my feature is a lot weirder and darker and psychologically terrifying. So if people want to hear about it, I'll tell them
Well
about
then,
it.
to a certain crowd, I think a lot of people are
Yeah.
looking forward to that. Is there
Maybe Contours is a different genre for sure, but still enjoyable, equally enjoyable.
But don't you think that's the mark of a good director is that they can do like different films? I feel like it's a pigeonhole if you end up doing like the same thing over and over again because some people find funding that way. Of course,
Yeah,
funders see them as that, whether it's a rom com or horror. It's like produce another horror film if this film was successful. Was that one of
yeah.
your ideas behind going in with Contours? Is it like, oh, to change up from what I'm used to doing?
I think so. Here's the thing that you hit on the head is that the pigeonholing of it all, which is
Right.
so true for younger directors, is you get pigeonholed by the industry. If I make a short that is like a horror short, then my first feature, they will push you to make a horror first feature. They will push you to make
Right.
a thriller or something specific, and then you'll get hired to make something in that same genre, and then the rest goes on forever. But yeah, it takes real courage to push back and say, I want to make a rom com, which is it really is what
Right.
Contours is, a dramedy, and I had never written something like that before or even directed something like that before. Yeah, it flexed the muscles. I want to do more stuff like that. I think you're right. It is a mark of a great director to make weird. But then you have the David Lynch's and people that make weird, creepy stuff, and everyone has their own niche and everyone has their own interests, and it'll come out, and it defies genre. I think genre is
Right.
so limiting and boring, and yeah, we have to think beyond that.
Amazing. So, what's next for you? I know you mentioned you're going to go maybe darker in the future, but have you already thought tangible next film and that you might be doing in the next year or two?
I think so. I have this new short, the 16 millimeter short. It's called Derby, and we shot it in
Yes.
Kansas, and it was a great film. And that will be doing the festival runs, and it will have a different lifespan than Contours. And I would love to make my first feature. I'm thinking it's a right now. It's a psychological drama. It is an extension of a short I made years ago, which
Okay.
was called Simone. It's about a young mother living in New York, and in the short, she leaves her baby on the train by accident and goes through the maze of New York to find her baby. So that's definitely thriller. But the feature version of it is a bit more complex, and it deals with issues of inheritance and morality and money and what it's like to be a mom struggling. Working on that, I want to get it produced. I want to make it. And if it takes a long time, it's okay because I can always make more short films in the meantime. So that's the plan. And yeah, I think as time goes on, it's looking like television is a really interesting industry to break into in terms of being a filmmaker and a writer. Um, so I've been thinking about moving into the TV space as well, but it really depends. It depends on what opportunities arise. I'll take them. I'll take it as it comes. And I was talking to a friend of mine from grad school, and she was saying, "Oh, it's taking so long." And when I left school, I didn't know what to do anymore. And I was like, if you really want to be a filmmaker, you have to play the long game, and
Right.
you have to keep at it slowly but surely. Have other things going on, pay your bills with other jobs, but if you want to if you want to do it, you're in it for years. So hang on, basically.
Isha, are your other shorts other than Darby and Contours available like on Vimeo or something like that if people want to watch?
Yes, there. A few of them are
Okay.
Vimeo staff picks. You could just type my name into
Okay.
Vimeo and they'll pop up. And some of them are on Short of the Week, which is an incredible platform that I absolutely love. It's
Love it.
great for shorts distribution. And some of them are private Vimeo links that I have not don't have the courage yet
Shared.
to make public.
Does this and I this is the first person other than my wife I've mentioned this to, but does this ever bother you that the Vimeo and some of the screeners you get sent, you can't easily watch it on like a television? You have to
Oh
watch it
my
like on a
god.
computer. Does this ever bother you?
Of
It
course
feels
it
like
does.
something that
And
might bother you.
why
All right.
haven't they fixed it yet? Why is it taking so long? I guess there's a Vimeo app you can get on a smart TV, but here's another thing. Now that you bring it up, are we making films for a laptop audience?
Right.
Are we making films for a
Right.
phone audience? Are we making films for a theatrical audience? I mean, all of the above, I think. That's another thing is not everyone is gonna see your short in a theater. They're most likely every time you submit to a festival, they're screening it on their phone or on their laptop, and I know this because I track the
Right.
analytics. You have to just, like
What? Really?
of course I do. Vimeo Analytics is extensive,
Right.
and everyone should look at their analytics dashboard.
This has been like so I like I said I've never said this before, but this has been I've complained I think to one other person about this. Is it's like I do a film podcast. So you would think and I talk with mostly directors. So you would think that most of the time like I have gotten like an app called Boomcaster that allows for like superior audio and video, and I still have like people like and this is like high profile films like A24 type like the indie top indies, and they're like we've scheduled like a Zoom press day, and I'm thinking Zoom has horrible video and audio.
That's
So, like,
crazy.
why are you scheduling directors who I assume have looked at every shot of their film and had it like color graded and all this other stuff? And
Yeah.
then they're going to talk about the film and just in
Hon
the shittiest quality ever.
Wait,
Does
that's
that
so
not
funny
bother
because
them?
they have the budget for something bigger than that. Have the
Or
PR
just the
budget.
app?
I know. Well, yeah, the Zoom app is just ever since COVID, it somehow has a chokehold on everyone, but there's far superior. I've used Riverside before, which is great.
Yeah, Riverside's
This
good
is
too. Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, there's way better ways to do it. That's so silly, and it sucks for you. I'm sorry. There's gotta be a better way. Maybe in person. In person,
and
you can
I,
do, like, a studio recording.
and I push back and I'm just like, you know what, look, and that's the other beauty of it's very similar to like short films is
Mhm.
nobody tells me like who I need to have on. Nobody tells me like where I need to record. I can decide
Yeah.
like where I want to record, who I want to talk with, and if it's not under the medium that I want to do it, then all right. Guess if
That
you don't
yeah,
care
that's
about audio and video, all right, I guess we won't
I
talk,
mean,
you
that's
know?
a bad representation for that filmmaker, though. I mean,
Right.
and so would you wanna build your podcast into being something that people listen to and they learn from, right? If the
Right,
quality is
right,
bad,
right. And
thank
especially
you.
with, I think, a film podcast, right? If you are
Yeah.
talking about healthcare or something, maybe audio and video aren't as important because it's not
Mhm,
the central to the medium that you're talking about. But if you're talking to about directors, about films, you would think they
mhm.
would both want to have high quality, but also have somebody who talks with them who also cares about high quality. But
I know,
putting
no,
on,
I
I'm
100.
glad. I figured you might empathize with me, and I am so glad.
I
I'm so
empathize
glad.
with you because quality is everything, and there's nothing more annoying than flipping through. If you want an audience for your podcast or for anything that you make and the quality is bad, people aren't going to
Right.
watch for more than 1 second. They will
Yep.
literally close that thing in 1 second. You can't afford that, not in this day and age.
1,000% agree. So, indie film podcast, love hyping other people's projects. You talked about how collaborative, your work and Contours was. I'm sure you have a lot of people you would want to hype. Just trying to break it down to just a few. Two-part question. Is there any specific film at Slamdance that you are like so jazzed to see? I'm sure it's a lot, but if there is one, and then any other indie film that when you're watching, you're like telling your friends that you got to go see this film, this director? Is there anything like that for you?
I'm glad you asked that question. So there is a shorts block at Slamdance called Unstoppable Shorts, and
Okay.
all the directors, all the filmmakers are have a disability, and they're making films about that. And there's two Unstoppable Shorts blocks, and one of them is sold out, which means there already is an audience for it. But I think that is the coolest thing that Slamdance does that other film festivals don't do. So I'm excited to watch those shorts blocks. There's a couple features that I'm excited for. I think one is called No Foul Deed, which is like a dark comedy. So I have tickets for that. I'm excited for as well. And then in terms of indie filmmakers, I watch. Unfortunately, most of my income has gone to independent cinemas around New York. I go to the movies all the damn time, but I think No Other Land, which is a doc made by Palestinian Israeli filmmakers that is nominated for an Oscar. That movie was like very powerful. Watched that recently. And then there's really anything that Pastel is a really great production company, Barry Jenkins' company. Anything they make is anything they touch is incredible. And it's just feels like filmmakers really being taken care of and their voice is really being nurtured when films are made through their company. And they have an overall deal with A24. So Pastel, anything they make, After Sun was something that they made as well. I love that film.
Love After Sun.
Well.
Oh,
So just devastating. They have other things at Sundance this year, and yeah, they're fantastic. So have my eye on them.
oh my God. This has been so much fun. Isha Amin, the film is Contours premiering, or is it premiering at Slamdance?
It is premiering at Slamdance February 22nd and 23rd in LA.
And you have an active Instagram account. I'll
Mhm.
link it in the show notes. I'm sure people can follow you to find out when films are premiering, your films are premiering near them. This has been so much fun.
Same. Thank you for having me. This was fun just chit chatting and like shit talking a little bit.
I know, right? I know. All right. Thanks so much for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you, Ben. Take care. Talk soon.